The German government has announced the dissolution of the Muslim association Muslim Interaktiv, accusing it of rejecting the country's constitutional order and promoting extremist ideology. The decision marks one of the most significant domestic security actions undertaken this year by Germany's Federal Ministry of the Interior. Early on Tuesday morning, security operations were launched across several German cities. Raids were carried out in 7 buildings in Hamburg, where Muslim Interaktiv was originally founded in March 2020. According to officials, the coordinated searches were conducted at dawn by federal and regional police units, seizing documents, digital materials, and internal communication records linked to the group's leadership. At a press conference in Berlin, German Interior Minister Alexander Dobrindt confirmed the ban and outlined the government's rationale. I can state at this stage that we have banned the Muslim Interaktiv organization because it violates the constitutional order and acts against understanding between peoples, Dobrindt said. These are 2 accusations that we have been able to demonstrate concretely. The minister spoke before a backdrop displaying the seal of the Federal Republic of Germany, describing in detail the findings of the Interior Ministry's investigation. The decision follows months of surveillance, during which German authorities gathered evidence of the association's activities, both online and through in-person gatherings. Dobrindt elaborated on the 2 main legal justifications for the dissolution. The first, he said, concerns actions against the constitutional order of Germany. Muslim Interaktiv has repeatedly called for the establishment of a caliphate, thus clearly expressing its rejection of democracy and the rule of law, he explained. The second offence, against understanding between peoples, is reflected in the refusal to recognise the State of Israel and the denial of its right to exist. The group Muslim Interaktiv is believed to have originated from a network of young activists in Hamburg associated with online platforms promoting Islamist ideology. Its content, primarily distributed through social media channels, reportedly called for the creation of a global caliphate and criticised Western democratic systems as incompatible with Islamic governance. German intelligence services have long warned that such messaging contributes to radicalization among younger audiences, particularly through encrypted platforms and short-form video content. The ban places Muslim Interaktiv among a growing list of organisations dissolved under Germany's domestic extremism laws. Over the past 3 years, the Interior Ministry has expanded its monitoring of groups accused of undermining the basic law, the foundation of the German constitution, or of rejecting peaceful coexistence among communities. Dobrindt's remarks on Tuesday made clear that the Interior Ministry's action extends beyond the dissolution of one organisation. The minister confirmed that searches were also conducted at 2 other groups, Generation Islam and Reality Islam, both under investigation for similar activities. I also emphasised that we conducted searches today at Generation Islam and Reality Islam, Dobrindt stated. I want to make it clear that further banning proceedings may therefore follow in this context. We are taking firm action against all forms of radicalisation, whatever its origin. According to German media reports, the morning raids began before sunrise, involving both the Federal Criminal Police Office, BKA, and state-level security forces. Law enforcement officers were seen entering private apartments and community spaces linked to the organisations. Officials said the operations proceeded without incident and that no arrests were reported at this stage. While the ministry has not disclosed the full list of materials seized, sources within the investigation confirmed that authorities were primarily targeting online archives, meeting records, and financial documents that could reveal foreign or domestic funding sources. German intelligence agencies have previously warned that some Islamist networks operating in Germany may maintain indirect connections with organisations abroad that promote extremist interpretations of religion under the guise of cultural or humanitarian work. The ban on Muslim Interaktiv follows a broader pattern of German security policy aimed at preventing the spread of extremist ideologies under constitutional law. In recent years, the Ministry of the Interior has invoked similar measures against both far-right and Islamist groups accused of undermining public order and the democratic system. Under German law, such bans can be issued when an organisation's objectives or actions are found to conflict with the Constitution's core principles, including respect for democracy, human rights and international understanding. The investigation into Muslim Interaktiv began in late 2023, when the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution, Germany's Domestic Intelligence Service, classified the group as a suspected Islamist organisation. The BFE's report noted that the association's rhetoric mirrored the ideological framework of Hizb ut-Tahrir, a global movement advocating for a transnational caliphate and long banned in Germany since 2003. However, Muslim Interaktiv had operated under different branding and claimed to focus on community awareness and cultural education. Officials said the evidence gathered over the past year demonstrated that these claims masked the group's actual agenda. Investigators cited multiple public appearances and online publications in which Muslim Interaktiv speakers called for the rejection of Western democratic systems and described participation in Germany's political process as incompatible with Islamic principles. In addition, Interior Ministry officials reported that members of the group had made repeated public statements denying Israel's right to exist, an offence that falls under the German Criminal Code's provisions against incitement to hatred and threats to international understanding. Dobrindt emphasised that Germany's constitutional framework leaves no room for organisations that promote discrimination or seek to delegitimise the sovereignty of other nations. The Interior Minister's announcement was met with broad political support across Germany's main parliamentary parties. Lawmakers from the governing coalition and opposition alike echoed the view that the ban was necessary to uphold democratic values and social cohesion. The Social Democratic Party's security spokesperson described the measure as a clear message that Germany will not tolerate extremist ideologies dressed as activism, while conservative leaders called it an overdue defence of the Constitution. Civil rights organisations have urged transparency in the enforcement of the ban. Representatives from Germany's Central Council of Muslims, Zentralrat der Muslim, stated that the government's actions must remain strictly targeted at groups proven to promote hate or violence to avoid stigmatising legitimate Muslim organisations engaged in community work. The council emphasised that the vast majority of Muslims in Germany respect democratic principles and actively contribute to the country's social fabric. Germany's constitutional protections allow associations to challenge such bans in court, though legal experts say that appeals rarely succeed when the Interior Ministry presents sufficient evidence of constitutional violations. Past cases, including the dissolution of extremist groups such as Ansar International and Hizb ut-Tahrir, have established precedents for such rulings. At the press conference, Dobrindt was asked whether the government expected further legal challenges from Muslim Interaktiv or its affiliates. The minister declined to comment on specific legal proceedings, but reiterated that the decision followed a thorough legal review. "We act on the basis of clear constitutional principles," he said. "Every measure is grounded in evidence and in our obligation to protect democracy and the rule of law." Analysts say the move reflects a renewed focus by Germany's security institutions on countering both Islamist and far-right radicalization amid growing political polarization. The Federal Criminal Police and intelligence services have reported an increase in online extremist propaganda targeting young audiences, often using modern production styles and social media platforms to spread ideological content. According to official estimates, approximately 28,000 individuals in Germany are currently classified as part of the Islamist extremist scene, with roughly 2,000 considered potentially violent. The Interior Ministry has warned that online radicalization remains a persistent challenge as groups adapt their strategies to evade moderation and platform bans. The dissolution of Muslim Interaktiv also underscores Germany's commitment to its long-standing policy of defending the basic law against groups that promote undemocratic systems. The country's post-war legal framework places exceptional emphasis on the concept of Wehrhafte Demokratie, or defensive democracy, which allows the state to take preventive measures against entities that seek to undermine constitutional order. In the hours following the announcement, police maintained a visible presence in Hamburg and Berlin to prevent any demonstrations or retaliatory actions. Authorities reported no incidents of unrest. Online, however, several accounts linked to Muslim Interaktiv published messages condemning the ban, calling it a violation of freedom of religion and expression. German officials dismissed those claims, noting that the right to religious practice is fully protected as long as it does not serve as a cover for extremist political agendas. As the investigation continues, the Interior Ministry has not ruled out additional actions against affiliated organisations. Dobrindt reiterated that ongoing monitoring will determine whether further bans are necessary to prevent the spread of anti-constitutional ideologies. We are taking firm action against all forms of radicalisation, whatever its origin, he stated firmly. This applies equally to Islamist extremism, right-wing extremism, or any other threat to democratic order. The decision has drawn attention from across Europe, where several governments are reassessing their domestic counter-radicalisation strategies amid heightened tensions linked to global conflicts and online extremism. Germany's approach, combining constitutional enforcement with community engagement, is seen by analysts as an attempt to strike a balance between security and civil rights. Internationally, the announcement was reported as part of Germany's broader effort to combat extremist ideologies while maintaining its reputation as a defender of democratic freedoms. European Union officials have not commented publicly on the case, but have previously expressed support for member states taking action within their legal frameworks to protect constitutional integrity. For now, Muslim Interaktiv's activities are officially banned. Its offices and digital platforms are subject to state seizure, and any attempts to continue operations under a different name would constitute a criminal offence under German law. The Ministry of the Interior confirmed that it will continue to oversee the enforcement of the ban through federal and state agencies. As the press conference concluded, Alexander Dobrindt reaffirmed his government's position that the preservation of constitutional democracy remains paramount. Germany's constitutional order is not negotiable, he said. We will continue to act decisively wherever our fundamental democratic principles are threatened. The dissolution of Muslim Interaktiv marks a decisive moment in Germany's domestic security policy, a demonstration of the state's readiness to defend its constitutional values against any form of radical ideology. Germany has formally dissolved Muslim Interaktiv and launched further investigations into related groups, signalling an ongoing crackdown on organisations accused of rejecting democracy and threatening the constitutional order.
Und herzlich willkommen. Zusagen gibt. Können Sie sagen, was Sie sich davon zahlenmäßig erhoffen und was Sie zu der Kritik?
Sichergestellt. Ich darf an der Stelle sagen, dass wir Muslim Interaktiv deswegen verbieten, weil Muslim Interaktiv gegen die verfassungsmäßige Ordnung verstößt und weil sie gegen die Völkerverständigung verstößt. Zwei Vorwürfe, die wir konkret nachweisen konnten. Der eine, der Verstoß gegen die verfassungsmäßige Ordnung, zeichnet sich dadurch aus, dass Muslim Interaktiv in der Vergangenheit wiederholt das Kalifat und die Einführung eines Kalifats gefordert hat, damit deutlich zum Ausdruck gebracht hat, dass sie sowohl die Demokratie als auch den Rechtsstaat ablehnt. Der Verstoß gegen die Völkerverständigung wird dadurch zum Ausdruck gebracht, dass es eine Ablehnung des Staates Israel gibt, dass das Existenzrecht des Staates Israel abgesprochen wird. Meine Damen und Herren, ich habe auch darauf hingewiesen, dass wir sowohl bei Generation Islam als auch bei Realität Islam heute Durchsuchungen durchgeführt haben. Ich will den Hinweis geben, dass es deswegen auch nicht auszuschließen ist, dass möglicherweise weitere Verbotsverfahren in diesem Zusammenhang sich anschließen können. Wir treten gegen jede Form von Radikalisierung an, egal von welcher Seite.